Hi guys!
Hey everyone!
We're back. We were just in New York City, as you know, from our video with Nava Silton. And while we were there, we got to meet with two of our former dance instructors there that we got to work with. And now we're really excited that they wanted to work with us on our project.
Yeah, they're really awesome. So
Yeah.
today we're going to have an interview to show you guys with Nancy Lushington. She's a full-time dance faculty member at Marymount Manhattan College. Nancy works in a program called Moving Wheels and Heels, and it's basically a dance integration program with people with disabilities and without disabilities, and it's a really awesome collaborative course, so she'll explain all about that in the video. Keep watching.
Yeah. We'll attach a interview that Catherine Cabeen typed up for us. She wasn't able to give us an interview because she was sick, but she did a write-up for us that's really, really inspirational, and I think you'll learn a lot from her. Catherine is an avid yogi. She's dedicated her life.
She's incredible.
Yeah, she's dedicated her life to the practice. She's also a really respected dancer and choreographer, as well as she's a really social activist for gender equality.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she's a superhuman. She's doing a lot of things with somatic practices, yoga techniques, massage, chiropractic. So all of the things that we really, really believe in. So
yeah, keep watching. I mean, these two people have affected us immensely. I mean, like Nava, they're people that we look up to, people we aspire to be. And so, you know, we're so excited to be able to share their genius with you.
Yeah, and they're both in the healing profession in very different ways. So you might find some technique or something that helps heal you.
My name is Nancy Lushington. I'm an associate professor of dance at Marymount Manhattan College, but I have for many years with some colleagues run a program called Moving Wheels and Heels, which is an integrated dance program for dancers with and without disabilities.
So when did you first begin to get interested in working with people with disabilities?
I have my best friends who I danced with in New York during our career. The gentleman got a job with a company called Cleveland Ballet Dancing Wheels, and he got a job as choreographer and artistic director for that company. He and his wife and I had taught workshops for many years together, and they suggested that I join them in teaching an integrated workshop, which I had no clue what that meant or what I was getting myself into, and now 30 some odd years later I'm still doing it.
Can you explain what an actual session or camp or whatever
we do?
Like?
We do. We call them our summer intensive workshops.
Okay.
We do one for adults and one for children. There are, I would say, anywhere from 15 to 20 participants. Some of those dancers would be able-bodied dancers. Some of them would be adults with cognitive disabilities. We've worked with people with autism. We've had hearing impaired students. We've had sight impaired students. We've had I'm hard pressed to think of anybody that we haven't worked with.
Right.
We've had people who have suffered a stroke and are doing rehabilitative work, but it's a much more friendly way of doing rehabilitative work. We found. And a typical day starts just like a summer dance intensive for fully able-bodied dancers with technique class. We have adapted the work that Barbara Sabatino and myself have done with May O'Donnell, which starts on the floor, seated warm-up, to articulate and mobilize the spine and the limbs in a seated position. So we find this translates very easily for both stand-up and sit-down dancers.
When I was injured, O'Donnell's work really allowed me to still move through my body.
Exactly. And because there's a lot to it, it's not just a simple warm-up, there's a lot that you can draw from. Then we move on to standing work. We use bars. We incorporate bars very often in the studio. And then we do across-the-floor work. Because this is an integrated workshop, we almost always have virtually one-on-one able-bodied dancers with disabled dancers. So when we get to the across-the-floor part, there's someone to help with people who need two people go, and other people don't need anybody. The particular group that we've been working with in Westchester, some of them we've had for 10 or 12 years, and they know the warm-up. I mean, they get better at it.
But I think
and they see the improvement.
And it's important for them to feel like they get to do an actual structured dance class rather than, like dance
being
therapy is
walking through
incredible as
something.
well, but
Well,
I feel like they can handle the structure.
Confirms
And-
for them
and-
that they're people. You know what I mean? That they're also dancers. They're also movers.
Agreed, agreed. And we give the able-bodied dancers corrections, and we give the
Yes.
disabled. So it's a level playing field.
Yes.
You can do it. You can lift your leg higher. You can lift your leg higher.
Yeah.
You can sit up straighter. You can sit up straighter.
Yeah.
The second part of the day is more creative. We do about a 2-hour block of composition or choreography. We generally do it collaboratively. So we'll divide the dancers into groups. We'll do, make a dance with a prop, bring in your favorite song.
Yeah.
But it's all geared towards a performance at the end of the week. Then the third part of the day is repertory. So that's when we teach them dances. Usually we do 2 to 3 dances during the course of the week, something that usually is already prepared, so we sort of have an idea. But then when we see what our population is, we'll do a dance that has cross able-bodied and disabled dancers moving together. There's always one big group piece, and then sometimes something for the able-bodied dancers and something for the disabled dancers. But there's a definite, there is this march towards the performance at the end of the week, which is something that they all
so
get very, very
exciting.
excited. But we all do. We all
Right.
participate.
And I'm sure that performance is such kind of like a confirmation for them that this is something that's helpful, and it's, I am a performer, and this is something that I can share
Yes, they
with
wear
other
they
people.
wear their special clothes on Saturday. There's a reception afterwards. Everybody brings flowers. We introduce them all. They put on a little makeup.
dancers.
They're dancers.
It's
Yes,
a
definitely
supportive
treat them as
environment.
dancers. Absolutely.
Can you talk about like the mind-body connection, because they definitely have an interesting take there, and I'm sure that sometimes this workshop does help their mind a little bit more in that time, or maybe their body, and like, do you see a difference? Do you see it all coming together? Like,
Oh my gosh. I bring it back to, I teach the courses here in teaching techniques, and we talk about teaching creative movement to children, and we talk about the outcomes.
Right.
We talk about the cognitive outcomes, listening skills, following directions, solving movement problems.
Yeah.
When you're tasked to choreograph a dance, that's solving a movement problem. We give them more problems, and and as they've gotten much better, we can make those more complex as we go along. Effective outcomes, social outcomes. They're dancing with each other. They're working collaboratively. They are expressing their feelings. When we ask them to bring in a song, that they want to make a dance to, they're just they're so excited because it's the song that they've chosen to express what they feel. Sometimes we ask them to bring in music after the fact to a dance we've already created, and again, they make those emotional connections very much. Physical motor outcomes, huge.
Oh, so many.
Huge. I like to tell the story actually of a chair user. He was quadriplegic, which means that all 4 limbs were affected, although he had some strength in his arms and upper body, so he could actually move the chair himself. So, but because there's an effect, they still call that a quadriplegic.
Right.
And he was taking our summer workshop in Ohio, and over, we would do a port de bras every day. And because of where his injury was, he had to leave one hand on the chair. Otherwise, when he lifted both hands, he would fall over. So, we have music, there's counts, and everybody's doing it. And then all of a sudden, one day we look over and he's got both arms going at the same time.
Wow.
Because the muscles still exist.
Yeah.
And so by calling upon them every day to support his spine, those muscles got stronger, and he could do it. And he talked about, the years of physical therapy that he had gone through that just became tedious, and this was having the same effect, but was exciting and thrilling and collaborative and
kept him interested.
Yes, exactly. So developing dance skills, we require our students to remember things. We ask them questions. Last year we talked about, negative space. Who can tell what's negative space? And these, adults with cognitive disorders, they're like, got their hand raised. They're remembering what negative space is. So, I mean, there's just a multitude of outcomes that
I like the story. I remember a man who had a stroke, and then he ended up like dancing and like lifting his arms
and moving backwards, which
backwards,
the physical therapist had, spent like holding on. And his wife came to the workshop too. She participated. He had been a race car driver, so this was a man who really was struggling mentally and emotionally with where the state that he was in. But here he was in a room with these. I remember he would just look at the beautiful young girl dancers in the room and be like, all right, I can do this. I can dance with them, you know. And so there was a sense of inspiration from the other people in the room. And, you know, his wife, Dottie, said, oh my God, he's walking backwards, unsupported. And we were all, you know, applauding.
And like everyone achieves things together, and so everyone's going through things together.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a very collective experience.
It's very
sure.
Yeah, especially when they can feed off of one another's energy and like be inspired by this person's achievements.
Celebrate each other's achievements.
They want to like improve for each other and with each other.
Exactly. And I think that kind of workshop provides a very collaborative experience rather than competitive experience, because they're all there to work together for like a collective goal rather than trying to be like, I'm better than you at this. You know, everyone's working so hard together.
And I almost forgot the most important part of the day, lunch.
Yes.
They all, you know, we set up these big tables and all of the interns and help make the food, and everyone sits down together, and there's this other aspect of shared life experience, which is magical.
Oh yes, that's incredible. So like a lot of ours is like alternative therapies and creative therapies, and showing that. Do you see that this is like so beneficial compared to like physical therapy sometimes? And
I think, you know, obviously,
like obviously they're needed
there's
as well.
a need for both.
Right.
There's a need for both, because very much like you were speaking about with the surf therapy, there's something that those things touch that regular physical therapy doesn't touch.
Yes.
That the emotional side of performance and the emotional side of creativity, making your own dance that's coming from you, you know, physical therapy doesn't touch that, even though the physical aspects of it might be quite similar, you know, in the activities, repetitive activities. But I think, you know, you guys are addressing people with multiple emotional needs, stress-related, anxiety. I think movement helps with all of those things too.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you know, speaking about getting so tired that you can actually sleep with a clear mind. Same thing. These adults go home and they're, you know, they have danced from 10 in the morning till 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and they're spent. They've used it up, and they feel good about it. You know, they come back the next day a little battered and bruised, but they're like ready to go again.
Yeah, motivated.
And a big part about the research that I did with the surf is that I think that everyone has the innate ability to be creative, whether it's art or surf. Surf can be creative. Just walking around can be creative. Thought processes. There's a lot of like different ways to be creative, and that applying those to a rehab program is a lot more beneficial, because you're, you know, actively engaging and putting yourself into the work rather than someone telling you what you need to do. So being creative and expressive, we just see so much benefit, and think that that's where the therapy and rehab world is really headed.
I hope so.
Yeah, in all aspects.
Particularly with all the research being done. I mean, there's so many collaborative efforts across the psychology world that are like trying to reach out to dancers and musicians and surfers and everyone to try and.
It's kind of fascinating that, you know, we all grow up as children with creative aspects to our life just constantly, you know, put upon us, and then as adults, most adults, those parts disappear, and I think that side of us, you know, that emotional side of us is left out to dry, you know, not to be fed by having those kind of experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people want to get into contact with you for helping or interning or volunteering, where can they reach you?
So I would reach me at my Marymount email, nlushington@mmm.edu.
Thank you for allowing us to
You're
interview
welcome.
you.
You guys are great.
So that was our interview with Nancy. We hope you enjoyed it and learned a bit about, you know, what you can do to help those with disabilities.
Yeah, go to our Facebook page or website, and you can find the write-up article that Catherine Cabeen wrote, and that's really exciting for you as well.
Yeah, we have so much awesome content for you guys, specifically stuff that we just did a little bit ago.
So like, share, subscribe to our channel, and
stay tuned.
Yeah, keep a lookout. See you soon.
Bye, guys.